The Story of Western Philosophy, Chapter 3, Section 1, Part 2, page 118. The Church, supported in its earlier centuries by the emperors, whose powers it gradually absorbed, grew rapidly in numbers, wealth, and range of influence. By the 13th century, it owned 1/3 of the soil of Europe, and its coffers bulged with donations of rich and poor. For 1,000 years it united with the magic of an unvarying creed. Most of the peoples of a continent, never before or since was organization so widespread or so pacific. But this unity demanded, as the Church thought, a common faith exalted by supernatural sanctions, beyond the changes and corrosions of time. Therefore, dogmas, definite and defined, was cast like a shield over the adolescent mind of medieval Europe. It was within this shell that scholastic philosophy moved narrowly from faith to reason and back again in a baffling circuit of uncriticized assumptions and preordained conclusions. In the 13th century, all Christendom was startled and stimulated by Arabic and Jewish translations of Aristotle. But the power of the Church was still adequate to secure, through Thomas Aquinas and others, the transmogrification of Aristotle into a medieval theologian. The result was subtlety, but not wisdom. The wit and mind of man, as Bacon put it, if it work upon the matter, worketh according to the stuff, and is limited thereby. But if it work upon itself, as the spider worketh his web, then it is endless, and bringeth forth indeed cobwebs of learning, admirable for the fineness of thread and work, but of no substance or profit. Sooner or later, the intellect of Europe would burst out of this shell. After 1,000 years of tillage, the soil bloomed again. Goods were multiplied into a surplus that compelled trade, and the trade at its crossroads built again great cities wherein man might cooperate to nourish culture and rebuild civilization. The Crusades opened the routes to the east and let in a stream of luxuries and heresies that doomed asceticism and dogma. Paper now came chiefly from Egypt, replacing the costly parchment that had made learning the monopoly of priests. Printing, which had long awaited an inexpensive medium, broke out like liberated explosive, armed now with compasses. Ventured out into the wilderness of the sea and conquered man's ignorance of the earth. Patient observers armed with telescopes here and there in universities and monasteries and hidden retreats, man ceased to dispute and began to search deviously out of the effort to change baser metal into gold. Alchemy was transmuted into chemistry. Out of astrology, man groped their way with timid boldness to astronomy, and out of the fables of speaking animals came the science of zoology. The awakening began with Roger Bacon, 1294. It grew with the limitless Leonardo, 1452 to 1519. It reached its fullness in the astronomy of Copernicus, 1473 to 1543, and Galileo, 1564 to 1642, in the researches of Gilbert, 1544 to 1603, in magnetism and electricity of Vesalius, 1514 to 1564, in anatomy and of Harvey, 1578 to 1657, on the circulation of the blood. As knowledge grew, fear decreased. Men thought less of worshipping the unknown and more of overcoming it. Every vital spirit was lifted up with a new confidence. Barriers were broken down. There was no bound now to what man might do, but that little vessels like the celestial bodies should sail round the whole globe is the happiness of our age. These times may justly use plus ultra more beyond where the ancient used non plus ultra. It was an age of achievement, hope, and vigor, of new beginnings and enterprises in every field. An age that waited for a voice, some synthetic soul, to sum up its spirit and resolve. It was Francis Bacon, the most powerful mind of modern times, who rang the bell that called the wits together and announced that Europe had come of age. The section is over.